Well, welcome everybody to Tech Talk Live number 130. Today we'll be looking at open source monitoring for Alfresco. I'm Eddie May, the community manager. I'm joined by Angel Boroy, who is a senior software developer in the search services. We're joined by a team from Zenit, who Thijs will introduce in a moment after I've done some housekeeping. During the course of the webinar, you can ask questions using the chat button on the right-hand side, normally of the screen. There's a question, sorry, not chat, the questions tab. And hopefully we'll have plenty of questions and we'll deal with as many as we can at the end of this session. Those that we can't deal with, we'll hopefully do a follow-up blog where we can answer all the questions and also provide links to the slide deck and other resources. We will also make a recording of this session available, probably 2 or 3 days afterwards, say Monday it should be available. And also we'll include the slide deck and any other resources in the landing page for the webinar recording. The last announcement from me is that we have a hackathon next Wednesday. A 24-hour global community hackathon. There is a handout somewhere in your UI with details of how to register a project if you want to do your own project during hackathon, and also how to join the Zoom call on the day. You're very welcome to pop in, have a chat, to work on your own project, or to jump in and help on someone else's project, or just drop in, have a chat, go somewhere else, come back again, and just chat with your fellow community members. It's up to you how we do this on Wednesday. So that's Wednesday the 16th, hackathon. And finally, there is a link in the chat facility to our Discord channel. So please hop onto our Discord channel where you can chat about this talk and other things as we go along. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Thijs, who is, I've forgotten what your title is, Thijs, but you can tell us, of Zenit. And I shall now make you a presenter, Thijs. And hello. If you could start the presentation, that'd be great.
Okay. You can hear me and see my screen?
Yeah.
Hello? Yes, okay. Well, I'm Thijs Lemmens. We'll go over the titles a bit later in this presentation. I'll first present. So welcome everybody to this Tech Talk Live about open source monitoring for Alfresco. And I'll be presenting with 2 of my colleagues from Zenit Solutions. So I'll start off with a quick presentation of Zenit and the speakers, and then a little motivation on why we built tooling to monitor Alfresco, and then a bit of an overview of the architecture of the solution we preferably use, and then 2 of the components we customized for monitoring Alfresco. That's first the platform, that's Alfresco core itself, and then also telemetry for Solar or Alfresco search services. At the end, we'll walk over some resources and the questions. First, well, I'm working at Zenit. Zenit is a consultancy company on intelligent information management, founded in 2007. Well, we manage more than 300 million documents for our customers, and we're the #1 integrator in Belgium for Alfresco. We have a global customer base of over 40 customers worldwide. We also have a strong team around Alfresco with many certified engineers and administrators. Well, about the speakers of today, Daan, he will be presenting Alfred Telemetry platform. He is a team member, a software engineer and has 5 years of experience with Alfresco and is also lead of our Alfred Inflow product. And we have Roxana, she has 8 years of experience with Alfresco and is also responsible for several DevOps activities, so very important for this monitoring topic. And then myself, I have about 10 years of experience with Alfresco, and I'm also a product officer at Xenit Solutions. So, little introduction on why do we build custom tooling around monitoring Alfresco? Well, at Xenit we offer a hosted Alfresco, so software as a service already for some years. So we need to monitor those Alfrescos closely to keep good uptimes. What we also do is managed services. So we manage Alfrescos for clients, but on their own data center or sometimes in the cloud on AWS or Azure. So in that case, we don't host it ourselves, but we run it with our tools at the customer's place. And a third topic we use it for is technical audits of Alfresco environments. Customers ask us to figure out what the problem with their Alfresco is. So we measure it. We measure some metrics with Alfred Telemetry, and we can do some suggestions for improvements. So the solution we are presenting today is mainly centered around Prometheus. Prometheus is a time series database specifically for monitoring and alerting purposes. And the way it works is it will scrape endpoints of services for metrics. So these services need to expose an endpoint that exposes metrics. The first one we present here is Alfresco Content Services, and we have a module Alfresco Telemetry Platform that exposes an endpoint with metrics. And the other one is Solar or Alfresco Search Services that exposes an endpoint as well. And then we have some other tools we use, Grafana, which is a nice dashboarding tool that can use Prometheus as a backend for a time series. And Alert Manager, we won't use Alert Manager today. Prometheus can send alerts to Alert Manager. Alert Manager can do some grouping and send it further to pager duties, Slack channels, or we use a tool called Alerta, which is a dashboard with alarms for multiple customers for us.
Thijs, can you turn your
yes?
Thijs, can you turn your camera off, please? It's stopping some
Yes,
people
sorry,
seeing.
I forgot.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's go to, we prepared a little GitHub repository with everything we are going to present today. You can do it on your own computer. So the link is here and I'll pass it on. So the only thing you need to do is check out this this Alfresco TechTalk Live monitoring GitHub repository, and you can use Gradle compose up, and this is a command you can use in Linux, but there's a bat file for Windows as well. If you have installed Docker and Docker compose, you can use this to run the demo on your own machine. Let me quickly go over it. So this is a Gradle project. Many of you may be familiar with Maven instead. Well, this is an alternative to it. So what we defined here, I'll make the font a bit bigger. We use a plugin set to support Alfresco and Docker Compose in Gradle, but actually the basics are we use an Alfresco WAR file, we install amps there's an amp for alpha telemetry and one for putting a micrometer jar in. That's a simple module. And there are some other tools that are used in the demos a bit further. And we use also some Docker Compose files, one for the basics like Alfresco and the database, one for Solar, and one for monitoring. And it's all brought together. This build file will also build a Docker image based on our pre-built Docker images with Alfresco community. Let's go back. Other things here, yeah, you can see here the Docker Compose files are pretty simple with some configuration by default and a database. And also Prometheus configuration. You can look into this at your own pace. So I already set this up on my local Linux host, and I'll go immediately to Grafana. So this is the main Grafana dashboard. So this is the dashboarding tool. We prepared a dashboard for visualizing Alpha Telemetry platform in this case for the last 24 hours, but it's not running that long. So let's take 30 minutes. So you can see all kinds of data. Dan will go into it a bit further later. If I go into the edit steps of this Grafana, I can see actually that it's using Prometheus as a data source, and Prometheus is already pre-configured. And you can see here what query it uses on Prometheus. It also has some placeholders for the application. It's an Alfresco in this case, and the instance, which is the instance of Alfresco. If you are in a clustering mode, you can have multiple. And then that it's about heap memory. So if I take this, I can go to the other tool, which is Prometheus. Prometheus has its own user interface and put it here. This is the metrics database, and it has a default interface, but it's pretty basic compared to Grafana. So I still have the Grafana placeholders I need to replace. Instance, it was the one on port 8080. That's the reference in Docker Compose actually. And then I can execute the query, and I can see actually in Grafana there was a sum of these three metrics: Eden space, old space, survivor space. And I can also see the same graph. Going a bit further here in Prometheus, there you can see actually the targets. There are two targets: the platform, so that's the Alfresco Prometheus, and Solar endpoints. The configuration is in the GitHub project, but you can also watch it here. So it's you can see here, this is the path of the metrics on the Alfresco 8080 target. Same for Solar. So what does this Alfresco platform actually expose? That's here, this page. So this is how the metrics look like. So if we go back to JVM memory used bytes, I can take this and find it back in, which is a custom web script in Alfresco. I can find it back here. You have multiple, there are three that have the area heap. So this is the way that it's actually exposed. Now I'll go back to the presentation and hand it over to my colleague Dan, who will explain a bit more in depth how Alpha Telemetry platform works and what you can do with it.
Okay, thanks, Thijs. Okay, so I assume, hi everyone, I assume everyone can see my screen at this point. So as a starting point, we needed to be able to expose metrics in Alfresco or Alfresco content services to be more precise. So for that, we created Alfred Telemetry platform. Now, what is Alfred Telemetry platform? It is an extension which integrates Micrometer into Alfresco. So as a start, of course, it's important to know what Micrometer is. So we start with that. Micrometer is an application metrics facade that supports numerous monitoring systems. So Micrometer provides a metrics API which you can use to register and maintain specific meters, so a counter or a gauge or a timer, for example. And the metrics API is fully decoupled of the monitoring system used. What does this mean? If we change the monitoring system or we export the metrics to another monitoring system, we don't need to change every place where we don't need to change the code in every place where we registered and maintain the meters or metrics. Furthermore, Micrometer also provides a huge list of pluggable monitoring systems. So here are some examples. Micrometer has a good documentation. You can find a full list there. Also worth to mention is that Micrometer is embraced by the Spring community, by Spring Boot. So anyone who has ever exposed metrics via a Spring Boot actuator probably has already some experience with Micrometer and might already have exposed metrics via Micrometer. Now, so Alfred Telemetry platform is an extension which integrates Micrometer in Alfresco. What does that mean? So what does the extension do? As a start, it provides a list of out-of-the-box metrics. Thijs already quickly showed the dashboard, but there are that dashboard is provided out of the box, and when you just install the extension, you get a set of metrics which you can use immediately. Furthermore, it also provides everything that is necessary to expose custom metrics. So for example, we Alfred Telemetry platform exposes a meter registry bean in the Spring context, which you in your custom extension can use to register and maintain your own counter or your own gauge, for example. Furthermore, what we also do is we scan the Spring context for meter binder beans. A meter binder is an implementation provided by Micrometer to easily expose a set of related metrics together. So what Alfred Telemetry does, it automatically registers these beans in the Spring context, so the metrics are automatically registered. And then last but not least, what we also do is we add a layer on top of the monitoring systems provided by Micrometer to easily enable and configure these monitoring systems. So it sounds a bit like the auto configure functionality of Spring Boot. You've seen that if we add the necessary dependency to the class path in Alfresco, Alfred Telemetry platform will automatically enable the exposure of metrics to the monitoring system, and configuration can be done via some predefined Alfresco global properties. We noticed, so it's worth to mention, we noticed that since Alfresco Enterprise Edition 6.1, Alfresco contains a Micrometer dependency out of the box. So a small comparison between Alfred Telemetry platform and the out-of-the-box Micrometer integration or dependency. So as I already said, in Alfresco, as far as I know, it's enterprise only. At least last time I checked. So I checked this all for the 6.1 Enterprise Edition version. So yeah, Alpha Telemetry platform is fully open source. You can find the source code on GitHub. Yeah, Alfresco is enterprise only. So yeah, Alpha Telemetry platform also works on Alfresco Community Edition. Dus the versions we support, so we support Alfresco Content Services 5.2 until and with including 6.2. You see we've put 7.0 in red here. That's because we still have to support that, but we registered a hackathon project for that. So for the hackathon next week, so feel free to join us in that adventure. The out-of-the-box Micrometer Alfresco integration is only included since version 6.1. Also, so the supported monitoring systems, Alpha Telemetry platform, yeah, it's not infinite, of course, but it is limited to the number Micrometer provides. So in this demo, we use Prometheus, but it is perfectly possible and it is rather simple to expose the same set of metrics, for example, via GMX or to graphite. Whereas for the out-of-the-box Alfresco integration, they only expose metrics to Prometheus. So even though Micrometer supports numerous more or one supporting system, the implementation in Alfresco is hardly coupled with the Prometheus monitoring system. And then as last, we an important functionality for us is exposing custom metrics. So we fully support the exposing of custom metrics, and I think it's well documented, but yeah, you can find it out yourself. For the Alfresco out-of-the-box micrometer integration, in theory, I think it's also possible to expose custom metrics. In practice, I don't know. It's not documented at this point, and I don't know if it's meant to do that. So I cannot answer that, but I don't know. Yeah. So that's just a quick comparison, just to let you know that there is also a micrometer dependency out of the box since Alfresco Enterprise Edition 6.1. So let's dive a bit deeper into the functionalities. We've already said before that Alpha Telemetry platform exposes some out of the box metrics. That's a list of, so most of them are standard metrics, standard for Java, for any Java application. So GVM, yeah, you can see the list. We also, of course, expose some metrics specific for Alfresco. Yeah, I'll show the dashboard once again, yeah, in a minute when I give the demo. But important here is that the list is still growing, and if you've got an idea, if there's an important metric we need to add, you can create an issue for it, or even better, a pull request, and we can add it, and everyone can benefit from it. Then an important functionality for us is that you can expose custom metrics. How does that work in practice? So as you can see here, you can just inject a meter registry bean into your custom code, and you can register and maintain your own meters, for example, a counter here. We made a small demo for that, so we prepared a small demo for that, but the demo makes use of another open source component we created, the Alfresco health processor. So I need to give a little bit of context here so everybody can follow. So what is the Alfresco health processor? It is a mechanism, a framework that loops over nodes in Alfresco, and it allows to execute health checks for nodes in Alfresco. These health checks can be custom health checks, or we provide some out-of-the-box health checks. For example, for this demo, the health check we will be demonstrating is a content validation health check. So what does it do? For each node that has content, so properties of type D content, it will check that the content is actually available in the backend content store. What we also integrated in the health processor is an Alfred Telemetry health reporter. What does it do? It simply exposes metrics about this to Alfred Telemetry. I'll quickly show the code of that reporter. Just didn't open it. So doesn't matter. So in this reporter, we just inject, it's the same as the example, we just inject the meter registry and expose some custom metrics and register some custom counters that count reports for health reports, but I'll just show it. So the health processor, it can be the health processor can be triggered via a cron job in Alfresco. So what I will do is I will just trigger the health processor job to start. I just started in vanilla Alfresco, so we don't expect there to be any issues at this point, but we'll just see. So I can show, so this is, I'm connected to my Linux host where the Docker containers are running. I'll just show you what it does. So I enable some logging. You can ignore the exception for now, it's not important. But I enabled some logging for the health processor, and what we can see here is that the job is already done. It's a vanilla Alfresco, so it really, the health check, the content validation is fast. It doesn't take long. So what do we see here? We created a custom dashboard for the metrics that are exposed via Alfred Telemetry platform. So what do we see here? We see here the count of health processor reports. So what do we see? There are 236 healthy reports. What does it mean in this case? It means that there are 236 nodes which have content, which have one or more content properties, for which the content actually exists in the backend content store. So we just use a file content store. So it's on a file system, everything is fine. None here means that those are nodes which do not have at least one content, at least one property of type D content. Now, the interesting part, I will just go inside the container. So just the Alfresco container. As I said, it's just a vanilla Alfresco with the content in the file content store. And I'm just going to remove a random, any random content binary file just to check. So remove very random one. So I'm just going to remove this one. Yeah, what we have now is of course an unhealthy state, but we'll let the health processor decide about that. So what will we do? I will trigger the health processor job once again. So I just trigger the cron job once again. Okay, it should be rather quick once again because it's a vanilla Alfresco. So what do we see now? The job is already done. What do we see? There's indeed one unhealthy node. So yeah, we can immediately see that there's one node for which the content is not there anymore. So we provided two dashboards. So one with the reports of all status and one with the reports of only unhealthy status. So we can quickly see that something is wrong. Now, I forgot to show, but what we also have is we also registered an alert for this. So this is the Prometheus Alert Manager. And what you can see here is that indeed we have an alert. So we configured an alert for any health processor failure and an alert for a specific content validation job. So as you can see, the alert has gone off, and if we now if we did connect, for example, Slack to send a push notification, we would have gotten a push notification. If we configured this in the Alert Manager, I mean, to send a push notification to Slack, we would have got a push notification and we could have acted accordingly. Or we could also configure here to send an email, of course. But we've got an alert and we can act accordingly. So one more thing I can show so this is a custom dashboard that we created for the Tech Talk Live. It's available in the GitHub project. This dashboard, there's already as quickly shown it, but it is just an out-of-the-box metrics. Everything you see here is out of the box, available, including the dashboard. Yeah, my Alfresco is not running that long. Let's take a shorter time period. So yeah, as you can see, there are standard metrics, metric standard for each Java-based application, I think, and we also have some custom, more related metrics more to Alfresco. So yeah, this is all out of the box. You can have a look at it yourself and yeah, see yourself what's included. So I think that concludes for the demo for Alpha Telemetry platform. I will now give the word to my colleague Roxana. We will talk about the Micrometer integration into Alfresco search services, Alfred Telemetry Solar.
Hello everyone, so I'm Roxana and I asked Thijs to be in this talk because I designed and implemented the Alfred Telemetry Solar component, and I also participated in rolling up the Prometheus monitoring system at Xenit. So once we had already the Alfred Telemetry platform, we realized that it would be nice to have something similar for solar as well. So we started up using some agents, the JMX exporter and the solar Prometheus exporter, which are available online. And these agents are attached to the Java process and offer their output on separate ports, exposing metrics based on XML descriptors. Starting with Solar 6, Solar has its own set of metrics implemented, but it's using another framework than Micrometer. These metrics are available to Prometheus exporter together with, for example, the parsed output of the Solar summary screen or any other REST call. So it would be exhaustive in terms of metrics because the Solar summary screen offers a lot of information about the status of the index, and also together with the JMX metrics exported by the JMX exporter, we would have a good view on the status of Solar. But the problem was that the names of these metrics were different than the ones used by the Alfred Telemetry platform. So in order to have a unified system, to be able to reuse Grafana dashboards and alert definitions, we implemented Alfred Telemetry Solar using Micrometer as a framework. Now a few words about the architecture. So in a system using Micrometer, there are a number of objects which need to be created statically. First is the registry, which can be a composite registry and include multiple registries such as Prometheus or Graphite. Currently, only these two are implemented for the Alfred Telemetry Solar part. Also, some other objects needed to be created statically are a set of binders which provide metrics, and bind to the registry previously defined. We get out of the box, as Dan mentioned, metrics binders for JVM, for system metrics, for process metrics, for Tomcat in the case of Solar 4, or Jetty in the case of Solar 6. In order to, so we need to define practically only the solar specific metrics. In order to not intervene too much in Alfresco Solar code, more specifically in the Alfresco core admin handler, I decided to implement the registry definition and the binders in a specific request handler called Micrometer handler. And this handler is called when a specific URL is accessed, namely Solar Alfresco metrics or Solar archive metrics. For a sharded setup, it would be Solar shard metrics. Somebody needs to call this URL to create these objects and to start up the system, let's say it like that. If Prometheus is one of the monitoring system used, there is no problem. Prometheus will scrape regularly the URLs. If there is no Prometheus or no pool system, for example, in a graphite-based monitoring only, the client calling this URL is an init script in the Docker image, which I implemented like that. Once metrics are defined via the binders, they are exposed on a telemetry handler in the Prometheus format, a specific format. Since out of the box Solar writers decorate the response with some information about the timing and so on, I also implemented a dummy response writer to simply output the metrics in Prometheus format. In the case of the Graphite only, metrics are being pushed to Graphite and the output of this script is not being used. Nevertheless, it's handy to check in what's happening and to see the metrics. A few words about the development and the packaging. Since Solar is not using Spring, there is no nice way to auto-configure everything and to define beans. Like in the case of the platform, everything is done in code based on environment variables, which can be easily used in Docker Compose setups. There are two jars available, one for Solar 4 using Java 8 and one for Solar 6 using Java 11. In Alfresco search services, starting with version 2.0.0, there has been a big refactoring and the content store has been removed. And some method names changed. Namely the ones for full text search status. Also, the way these nodes are retrieved has changed. Before search services 2.0.0, we were looking for nodes with status new, dirty, and clean. And after that version, we were looking for nodes with status in sync or to be updated. How do we install Alfred Telemetry Solar? So besides the jars built by the project, we also need to, which need to be in the class path, we also need to make a couple of customization in XML files. So first, we need to add the definition of the handler and of the writer to solarconfig.xml. Since there is no easy extension point for this file except adding an include like in a regular XML, we used a trick and we made use of this Solar config inside XML. Because in the zip file of Alfresco search services, this file is included by default, although it's not being used in search services only. It's only being used in the search services and inside. So we made use of this file to define the handler and the writer. Another customization needed was for Jetty, so for Solar 6 only. We needed to insert the statistics handler in order to have Jetty specific metrics. And also to make this available to the web application, to make this class available to the web application to be able to use it in the code. And finally, a third kind of customization required only in the case of graphite registries, graphite only, is that init script which calls the handler once in the beginning. Since all this, it's quite a lot of customization, we provide Docker images with everything ready, and they are in the resources and links section. So I will now go to I think I will go to Grafana as well. Or maybe first I will show how to call the handler. So this is my Solar instance, and I simply append the Alfresco metrics and with a specific writer called dummy, and then I can see all the metrics which will be scraped by Prometheus. The same thing I can see in Prometheus itself. So if I search for Solar specific, I get autocomplete, and then I see the same metrics there, and also over time I can plot them over time. This has been discussed before. So the most interesting, maybe it's going to Grafana, and yeah, the first lines are the same JVM related panels as used in the case of the platform, also system metrics and process metrics. What's interesting for Solar is are these 4 lines. So there are 4 types of metrics for Solar. Core statistics, which is sort of an informational panel, just showing how many nodes there are, how many of them are transactions, how many are states indexed, and also for ACLs, how many are ACLs and ACL transactions. So as I said, this is more informational. Also informational are the full text search panels. So I need to scroll a bit. Which gives information about how many nodes are still in the process of being indexed for, whose content is still in the process of being indexed. On the same graph, I put all the possible values for this status, but we can see some of them are valid for search services lower than 0, and some are valid for search services higher than 200. We also have metrics about the tracker status, the trackers status, how many transactions are remaining to be indexed, what's the lag for the transaction and the ACLs. These are taken from Solar summary screen, so they are an estimate. They are not always accurate, but that's the best we have at this point. Interesting is also the searcher warm-up time. So the fourth kind of metrics, JMX-based metrics for Solar. First panel is the searcher warm-up, which basically gives information about how real time the index is. So how much time it takes since no node has been added to Alfresco until it's searchable. the searcher warm-up time is mainly taken by filter caches, and in some cases it can be very large. So it's something to be monitored. We also have request rate and request times for AFTS and for semis. Yeah. And we have a set of alerts defined for solar, specifically, so warm-up time, requests per second request time, and also if there are indexing errors, if the lag is higher than a specific value, we get an alert. Or if we have too many node whose content has not been indexed. So keeping an eye on the system and monitoring, I think it's crucial to know, to give a better impression on the status. There are a couple of resources and links provided. So first is the GitHub project we made for this demo, then a link to Micrometer, to the health processor, to all the tools we are using in this solution, and finally also the Docker images, which are public. Should you have problems, please contact us to see. So this concludes my presentation. So I think it's time for questions now.
So thanks. That was,
well, thank you, everybody.
Yeah, that was really amazing. It's incredible to see how Alfresco how out-of-the-box Alfresco features can be applied to something really useful, and with that kind of configuration and with that kind of open source approach. This is what we like. So there were a few questions from the attendees today. So the first one is from Morty, and Morty was interested in Dan's presentation. And it said that when the alert fires, does it show any detail of the missing node? So when it happens, how it happened. So any clue on that in order to find out why that happened, Dan?
Yeah, so you won't see that information in the dashboard, for example. It's just a metric, but you can, for example, I enabled some logging. You can see there which node fails, and yeah, you can follow it up like that. We also provided the possibility to add other health reporters, we call it. So it's very extensible, and it's still very much in progress, but there's definitely also the option to, for example, add an email handler and send, for example, an email to to the support team, to your support team about with the node information. But you do have information about the node, you know the UUID, you know the node ID. So yes, you'll get that information, but no, it's not exported via Alfred Telemetry to Prometheus, for example.
Before I ask the next question, just a quick reminder that most of the links are available in the chat facility. And there's also a link to our Discord channel where also a lot of the links have been put there as well. And they've also generated a little bit of discussion as well. Okay, Alexander asked this question. What have been the reasons to use Prometheus with Alert Manager instead of using other tools, for example, CheckMK, which has notifications included? Thijs, your go, man.
I think Prometheus is...
I'll let Roxana continue the answer.
Okay.
I think Prometheus is one of the most modern tools used and largely used nowadays for monitoring, and it's also very easy to set up, and yeah, it just worked. It works.
That sounds good enough for me.
Yeah.
Something that works.
I don't think we have any experience with CheckMK ourselves, do we?
No.
No.
That might be an interesting follow-up, perhaps from Alexander, about why CheckMK might be another candidate. Okay, Angel, have you another question?
Yeah, I have a pair more from that. So Vitor is asking if there is some this is for Roxana, if there is some way of monitoring untracked content in Solar. So you are performing a bulk migration and you start again Solar and so on. So probably some content is not indexed, and he's asking if it's possible to detect a problem like that with this tool.
No, the only thing which is available now is the information provided by the Solar summary screen. So that's metrics and number of errors, number of nodes, number of transactions, and we can see it growing. As far as I know, specific problems can only be debugged starting with the report screen of provided by Alfresco, but that's a slow call. We cannot do it once a minute like Prometheus scrapes now. So no, yeah.
I guess it's not possible, to be honest, from the services team, I have to say. But we are not providing that kind of information, so probably Solar is not able to expose that. But anyway, that should be something we can like investigate on the next hackathon, you know.
If we have a specific node to follow, for example, we could issue a search and see the result of that search and expose it as a metric. But that means we need to know some DBIDs, or we need to know some specific information, not a generic system.
Yeah, of course. So thanks, and I guess that this is the latest one for Thijs, because Thijs didn't reply to anyone. So this is for you. Juan is asking if do we need to consider more capacity in terms of memory and CPU in order to be able to use these tools in our system? So is there any impact in performance?
Yes, well, it depends a bit on the size of your installation. So Grafana doesn't use a lot of memory, and if you just start it, Prometheus won't use a lot of memory either, but as the data becomes bigger and you keep a larger data set that you want to query in Prometheus, it will need more memory and possibly also more CPU resources. It's a database. So yes, if you have a lot of alerts that need to check on a regular basis, it's also depending on the frequency you let Prometheus scrape your targets. We haven't had a lot of tuning done yet on the Prometheus side, maybe because the installations weren't big enough or the defaults are bringing us quite far. But yeah, it's not magic, so it also needs needs some resources.
Perfect.
Stella has asked, I don't know who to address this to, I must admit. So But Stella has asked, can S3 buckets handle this kind of thing with your tool?
We're talking about the health processor content checking.
I
Daan,
would
you can
imagine
answer
so,
that.
Yes, the check we implemented right now is just a content store exist check. So it even uses the Alfresco content store abstraction. So at this point, it works with each underlying content store. It might be a good idea to improve or extend that health check. For example, check if the content has the expected size, but again, the health processor is still in progress, and we could add that at any point.
Actually, this check is originally developed for a customer using S3. So yes, it works.
Okay, and I guess that we have time for one last question that is coming from Daniel. And Daniel is asking if he can use your Grafana dashboard with an out-of-the-box Alfresco Enterprise 6.1 or later installation. So he's just trying to use only the Grafana dashboard with a standard Alfresco installation. I don't know if this is possible.
Well, yes, but you need to have a Prometheus and Alfred Telemetry with so you need to install some tools. It's not a vanilla, but it's we support Alfresco 6.1. But if you don't install the tools on Alfresco side, the metrics are not exposed. So
yeah,
but
answers
the question.
I guess that the question is, as Alfresco by default is exposing some metrics to Prometheus and to Grafana, I guess that the question is if you are doing something different, so your finally Grafana dashboard can connect with default Alfresco Prometheus metrics. If you are using something special, some special name, some special metric that is not present, so.
So I think there might be overlap in the names of the metrics, but we didn't intend to support that. So the correct answer here would be no, I think.
Okay, thanks. Perfect.
And I think there's a final question, which I think Hackathon answers, is will there be an Alfresco 7.0 integration available?
So yes, we plan to work on that next week in the hackathon. So you're happy to join us in that exercise.
Well, I think we're at the top of the hour. I would like to thank Dan, Roxana, and Thijs for what I think is an excellent presentation. Really shows the power of the tooling and of open source. Thank you also to Angel, who understands the questions far better than I do. Thank you all for attending. We will be sending out a follow-up email, which will have the presentation slides and the links to watch the video on demand. And keep an eye out also for an email about Hackathon and how to join Hackathon. And you can work with Zenit on this to make it Alfresco 7 compliant. How about that next Wednesday? Okay, thank you everybody, and have a good evening, have a good morning, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Only us.
It's ending.